locked in a vault forever. But with Spider-Man's popularity picking up steam overseas, Columbia got a brilliant idea. Instead of forking out more money to produce more stuff with the character, why not just bash the best episodes of that TV show together and repackage them as feature-length films to release theatrically for international audiences? Say hello to the original Spider-Man trilogy, a breathtakingly low-brow, low-budget production that is perfect fit for the internet age.
That's right, Peter. I'm you, and you're me, and this is a gun.
First movie, 1977 Spider-Man, introduces the hero in, let's just say, an atypical way. The whole thing starts with this truly bizarre cold opening where a doctor and lawyer are hypnotized by these weird-looking lapel pins and together pull off a daring bank robbery. They then off themselves in a getaway car crash, and two rando goobers show up to grab the cash and dispose of the evidence. The first thing that hits you is that this movie is like aggressively 70s. From the soundtrack to the cars to the clothes, if it's not your style, you're gonna have a bad time. So we pick back up at the Daily Bugle, where high school teenager Peter Parker is attempting to get a job as a freelance photographer. He's portrayed by actor Nicholas Hammond, who, if you look close enough, you might be able to tell is an almost 30-year-old man. No CGI de-aging in sight, just actors living in the moment. The Bugle's head honcho, Jonah Jameson, thinks Peter Parker's pictures sting, but a beautiful hit grabs his attention. Some anonymous villain has claimed responsibility for the bank robbery downtown and boasts of having brainwashed two of the state's most upstanding citizens to do his dirty work. He tends to brainwash 10 more high-profile victims unless the city coughs up $50 million. As the Bugle debates whether the story is legit or just an elaborate prank, our hero goes back to school and heads to the chemistry lab to check up on some of his class experiments. After shooting the breeze with a fellow classmate about the mind control story, Peter fumbles around with his lab equipment and then gets bitten by a radioactive spider. That's how they do it. So another lame bank heist takes place, and Peter kind of shuffles out of the lab, dazed and confused, just in time to find himself caught in the path of the getaway car. I say caught like it's dangerous, but the car is only going like 7 miles an hour. Trying to run him over? This is probably the most glaring problem that these movies have. These car chases are supposed to be deadly, but I mean... Are you kidding me? Peter discovers that after the bite, he now has wall-crawling superpowers, allowing him to climb to safety, even though, again, if he just steps off to the side, he's probably in the clear. He hops back down to the scene of the crime and snaps a few hits for the Bugle. This puts him in the crosshairs of one detective something who's bent on cracking the case of a mysterious mind-controlled bank robbery hostage heist. He thinks Peter's being in the right place at the right time is a little too convenient, but without any real evidence, he lets our boy go and makes arrangements to question him later. Parker goes home, passes out, hallucinates his way through a deep sleep, and awakens to find himself fully spider-fied. He crawls his way around the outside of his house, and boy howdy, get a load of these visual effects. Whatever works. With a new lease on life, Peter goes downtown and starts scaling buildings for fun, stops Purse Snatcher, and then heads to the Bugle with these crime scene photos in hand. JJ is no longer interested, but the news of a mysterious, heroic Spider-Man has quickly gotten around town. You hear that, Robbie? Mr. Parker here saw a Spider-Man. Isn't that wonderful? What do you look like? Like a spider. How many legs do he have? 2, of course. He's a man. You just said he was a spider. Spiders have got lots of legs. He's not a spider. He's a full-grown man. Are you on drugs? The Bugle wants pics of the wall crawler, so Peter goes home, throws together a goofy costume, and sets up a solo photo shoot. Also, hey, what do you know? Aunt May is in this movie for a hot minute and drag. Peter heads back to the office with his picks, and a skeptical yet impressed JJ debates whether to run the Spider-Man story in the Bugle. Getting a call that a new bank robbery car crash has just occurred, he decides to send Peter out on his first official assignment to cover the crime scene. Detective Something is more than a little peeved to see Parker again, but thanks to our hero's quick thinking, the driver of the car survives and gets transferred to a local hospital. So long story short, the driver is a well-respected English teacher who claims to have been under mind control. Peter meets his daughter Judy, and the two visit the hospital to gather possible clues. Before long, the mysterious big baddie sends a lackey to activate Mr. Manchurian Candidate again, commanding him to jump out of the hospital window. This is the slowest paced rescue scene ever. Between climbing to the top of the building and then running across the rooftop and then climbing down to where they cut it at. Howard has complete saves the day. Afterward, he and Judy then continue their hunt for the mind controller and eventually end up at a self-help guru that her father had recently begun to see. Discount Mad-Eye Movies got quite a collection of well-off rubes, and while Peter's spidey sense tells him that something is off, Judy falls for the con hook, line, and sinker. Peter heads back to school to build his web shooters, taking time to practice with them in the park. By the way, they just keep looping the same song over and over and over again anytime there's an action scene. It's totally great. Peter's got this at-home radio machine for some reason, and he manages to pick up the brain control signal and follows it downtown to find the source, cue more awful wall crawling and more awful music. When you know it, the signal leads to Mad-Eye Moody's office. Once Spider-Man slips inside to investigate, he is randomly attacked by these three dudes with kendo swords, which I was not expecting that. Just gonna stand there and not move around? Just gonna watch him do that? After an impeccably choreographed fight scene, Spidey hightails it out of there and races to an appointment to detecting something. The detective starts getting a hunch that Peter is somehow involved in the robberies, but our boy plays coy and they get perplexed. Afterward, Pete pays Mad-Eye Moody a visit in his sittings and falls for the evil Guru's trap, getting fitted for a lapel pin of his own. Luckily, his spider senses help him overcome the indoctrination, and he returns to the office in full regalia. The Kendo Bros return for a rooftop showdown, and Pete is forced to use his web shooters to make a hasty retreat, breaking his arm in the process. He's forced to hitch a ride in the back of a trash truck and heads home, bandaged and fully in. With the mayor having lined up the $50 million ransom and Mad-Eye setting his sights on a getaway train, it looks like the villain may just get away with it. He lines up his 10 victims, including Peter, who thanks to the Empire State Building to jump off. But thanks to the building's safety bars, Pete's mind control lapel pin gets torn off and he regains his agency. Kind of a missed opportunity for that Judy lady to help him. Whatever, I'm not the screenwriter here. With no time to lose, he races to the Guru's office and disables his radio dish, saving the other hostages just in time. With the Kendo dudes now no longer under Mad-Eye's control, they eagerly let Spidey into the boss's office, and our hero discovers that the doc's tech has backfired, leaving him open to suggestion. Peter tells him to turn himself in to the police, and Mad-Eye obliges. With the day saved, the detective gets his man, Peter gets the girl, and Jonah gets his pictures. Yes, we're all winners here. How come you're the only one who's able to get pictures of him? Simple. I believe. All rather weird start to the cinematic franchise, but don't worry, the follow-up flick is even weirder. Spider-Man Strikes Back premiered in theaters the next year and cranked the action up to 11 by introducing a pen pal and nuclear threat, just like all great American movies. So by now, Peter has been doing the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man thing for a while. He's garnered quite a bit of public support, although he still runs like a total goober. In the day-to-day, Pete's been working his way up the daily Google totem pole, still taking his Spidey bits, still wishing he was assigned to more important stories. Although there's a new guy playing JJ, much grumpier, got a mustache, same. Living the triple life of crime fighter, newsman, and student isn't easy. By the time Strikes Back starts, Pete's at the end of his rope. One day at school, Parker's professor announces that the class will be conducting an experiment with, wait for it, plutonium on loan from the United States government, because that makes sense. This is the 70s, the students are extremely concerned about the message it sends by playing around with such dangerous material, and are less than enthused with the assignment. 3 of Peter's fellow classmates turn out to be anti-nuclear activists, and they hatch a plan to turn the assignment into a public protest. They choose to do this, hold on to your hats, by stealing the plutonium, building an atomic bomb of their own, and then revealing it to the world as a public demonstration to advocate for global disarmament. Honestly, what could go wrong?
Someday atomic bombs are going to be like electric candles. Everybody's going to have one.
Well, so the kids break into the school. Peter's spidey sense goes off. This is what that looks like, by the way. Peter rushes to the scene, the hapless security guards throw a wrench in things, and Spider-Man is blamed for the theft. This puts Police Captain Whoever back on the hunt, and by extension, Peter in his crosshairs. To make matters worse, across the country in California, the weekly Examiner is just so happening to do an expose on the web crawler, and they send hotshot reporter Gail Hoffman to New York to cover the story. Her only lead, hapless teenage newspaper photographer Peter Parker. By the way, the Examiner's headquarters, eerily similar to the Daily People set in the previous movie. You use what you got, you know? The activists and students are big mad that they've been relegated to page 10. They set out to construct the bomb with renewed vigor. Gail arrives in town, and we get our movie's meet cute.
Well, nice to meet you. I have to
It's very nice to meet you too.
Back and forth. Meanwhile, we're introduced to Mr. White, the movie's main villain. It's extremely confusing to me. I don't get it. Evidently, he's a mastermind terrorist stationed in Los Angeles with his own secret compound and personal bodyguards. He has a habit of, I guess, perusing local newspapers from across the country and sees the Bugle story about the plutonium theft and somehow deduces that it was a group of students who stole it, has his henchmen track down records of the student body, and for some odd reason concludes that Peter was the thief. The amount of narrative hoops you have to jump through to get that to make sense. So Mr. White lures Peter and Gail to a hotel where he plans to steal the plutonium for himself. This results in our first big dust-up of the movie. There's this weird guy in a tux that keeps karate chopping everything. I have no idea why. Peter uses his death-defying abilities to escape with Gale, but shortly after arriving at a hideout, Captain Detective Whoever shows up with the FBI to take Peter into custody under suspicion of being Spider-Man's accomplice. The students manage to complete the bomb, but after one of them falls ill due to radiation poisoning, they get the bright idea to rush her to the hospital while leaving the weapon completely unsupervised, because, of course, Peter gets booked, released, loses his job, goes home, gets the news about his classmate, and rushes to the hospital for answers. Mr. White quickly learns that the bomb is out in the wild and plans to the classmate's apartment to grab it. Peter throws on his costume, whips his way over to stop them, and he gets another rooftop fight scene. Got a sword? Why isn't there swords in these movies? Mr. White escapes with the bomb, and the students spill the beans about the plutonium, getting Peter off the hook from the FBI, and once he's a free man, he tracks Mr. White to Los Angeles to get it back. A couple of those chase scenes later, Spider-Man's on the lot of the West production, and takes out Mr. White's henchman. Dale gets kidnapped, and our hero heads to White's hideout to sell the store. A last-minute twist reveals that White plans to reprogram and detonate the bomb during a presidential visit. You all already know how this thing ends. Our hero overcomes the odds, disarms the weapon just in time, saves the day, gets his job back, and shares the last few moments of the movie with the leading lady, hinting at a romance that will ultimately go absolutely nowhere. You might think that the studio would then drop movie number 3 the very next year. You would be wrong. Spider-Man, The Dragon's Challenge arrived in theaters in 1981. I'm not going to lie to you. I fell asleep during this movie. To give you an idea of just how bad this probably was for the original audience, imagine walking in theaters in 1981 and being given the option to watch either Raiders of the Lost Ark, a Spielberg masterpiece, or a dated, low-budget American TV show haphazardly repackaged to function as a quasi-feature film. Spider-Man: The Dragon's Challenge does a lot of things wrong, but by far the greatest sin is that it is shockingly boring. The overly convoluted storyline goes something like this. There's a man named Finn who serves as the head of industrial development in China. He's set to award a power plant contract worth $1 billion for a particular industrialist. However, there is a rival competitor also bidding for the job named Zyder. Zyder knows that Finn knows he's a big baddie, and so he hatches a plan to boot Finn from the ministry, knowing that his replacement will award him the contract instead. So he plans to frame Finn for espionage committed during the days of his military service, alleging that he stole secrets from the U.S. military. Turns out Finn actually was approached by the U.S. and offered a large sum of money to spill what he did when he was younger, but at the time he refused the offer. The only people who know that he didn't sell out are the 3 Marines who secretly met with him in a Chinese village some 30-odd years ago. So, knowing that his reputation is about to be speared by Zyder, Finn flees Hong Kong and arrives to America in the hopes of tracking the 3 Marines down and asking them to testify in China on his behalf. There is Buzz. Great, here's how Spider-Man fits into it. Finn is old pals with J. Jameson, and so he shows up one day at the Daily Bugle with his charming niece in the hopes that the paper will be able to find the Marines in time before Finn is replaced and the power plant contract is finalized. Basically, it's just a movie about a shiny real estate dispute, like with Spider-Man or whatever. By now, Joan is on good terms with Peter Parker, who has recently become one of the Bugle's best investigative journalists. Having recently finished a story involving the State Department, he figures that Peter can use his contacts to find the 3 mysterious men without raising suspicion, because the whole time this is going on, the big baddie Zyder has been tracking him and plans to assassinate him if the smear campaign fails. Sort of. Zyder's actually subcontracted the dirty work out to another dude who has his own set of goons. That's a whole other headache. Much of this movie is spent just explaining all of this convoluted storyline by way of long, drawn-out conversations between various minor characters in extremely dull locations with next to no music or action at all. It's a slog. It takes forever for Peter to even enter into the picture, and his role as Spider-Man also takes the backseat. The action scenes are few and far in between and are somehow even slower and more awkward than the previous movies. And again, they keep looping one music track over and over and over again throughout the movie. Why do they do that? The only copy of the movie that I managed to find was in pretty rough shape. The fact that most of the scenes take place in super muddy and dark locations did not help matters. There's this absurd action scene where Peter actually gets shot in the New York subway, but somehow just shakes it off, leaves the station, walks across the street, buys a hot dog. And he's like, yeah, just tweak my shoulder, I'll be alright. The big draw of this movie was supposed to be that, hey, it's Spider-Man in China. But they don't even get there until like the last half hour of the film, because each of the three Marines has got their own little side story, and most of the movie is spent watching Peter try to protect Finn from various waves of subpar assassins. By the time we actually get overseas, you can tell the producers like really wanted to drive home that they had to go out on location to shoot this, because it's like a solid 10 minutes of Peter and Finn's niece just going to various hotspots and showcasing Eastern culture. This goes on forever. It's like a travel show. So my favorite part of this movie is this hilarious moment that is clearly shot guerrilla style in the streets of Hong Kong, where Nicholas Hammond is trying desperately to get to the front of the group for the camera, and this random lady next to him is just like not having it. Also, check out how smoothly he slips a tracker into this guy's pocket.
Nothing to worry about, Identity. No, I guess you're right. I worry too much.
So as per usual, the final showdown takes place in a high-rise. We get some martial arts action on the rooftop, and then Spidey takes Johnny down in his board.
Spider-Man, I didn't know you worked outside New York. I don't, usually.
I know I want to talk right now, but like, how does the costume look worse and worse with each passing movie? Is it like the only one they have? If I have to rank them, it'd go 2, 1, 3, but honestly, Strikes Back ranges more like a country mile. They are definitely quirky takes on the Spider-Man character. Watching each movie is really like opening up a time capsule, and I think that they are enjoyable if you accept them for what they are and nothing more. Evidently, the Spider-Man TV show was like a huge hit back in the day, so I'm a little surprised that Marvel seems to have like gone out of their way to try and erase it from history. They have never remastered or re-released it for Blu-ray, DVD, or streaming. The only way to watch it is by finding like bootleg versions online, or if you have old VHS tapes of it. Maybe this video will get the ball rolling on something, although I won't get my hopes up. Hey, did you know that there was a web-slinging superhero eerily similar to Spider-Man that hit shelves almost 20 years earlier? She's called the Spider Queen, and I'm bringing her back as part of the Super Zeros, my own cinematic universe of forgotten heroes of old. I wrote a new origin story for her, and it's out right now. You can visit the link in this video's description, pick up a copy, and jump into the world of Shannon Payne, the Spider Queen. There's no Dragon's Challenge, just something. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. They've got everything you need to make a beautiful website. Start by choosing from one of their stunning customizable templates and then shape it to your specific needs. Let's say you want to start a podcast, but you don't want to have to deal with all of that annoying logistical stuff. Their audio block feature handles it for you. Maybe you want to build a private community. They offer member areas. Even if you have an idea